This is Ira Gorlick, and this discussion is on rent seeking. So, rent seeking is an important economic term. What it is, it's expending resources on political activity to increase one's share of existing wealth without creating wealth. And that's important to the whole concept when we get into schools of thought that we need to explore a little more. The effects of rent seeking are reduced economic efficiency through poor allocation of resources. Current studies of rent seeking focus on manipulation of regulatory agencies to gain monopolistic advantages in the market while imposing disadvantage on competitors. You see how this fits net neutrality perfectly? Is net neutrality an attempt by the telcos, by the ISPs in rent seeking, or by some other special interest group? The word rent does not refer here to payment on a lease, but stems instead from Adam Smith's division of incomes into profit, wage, and rent. The classic example of rent seeking is that of a feudal lord who installs a chain across a river that flows through his land and then hires a collector to charge passing boats a fee, or rent, of the section of river for the few minutes to lower the chain. There is nothing productive about the chain or the collector. The Lord has made no improvements to the river and is helping nobody in any way, directly or indirectly, except himself. All he is doing is finding a way to make money from something that used to be free. Is that not the crux of the net neutrality discussion? Could you not substitute those same words for net neutrality discussion? In many market-driven economies, much of the competition for rents is legal, regardless of harm it may do to the economy. However, there are some rent-seeking competition that's illegal, such as bribery, corruption, smuggling, and even black market deals. But of course, bribery is a difficult thing to show. I mean, if you think about a senator who passes legislation that favors a healthcare company, for example, and then when they stop being a senator, goes to work for that healthcare company, how much is that not bribery? You can really draw it is really difficult to draw the line here, but you see where I'm going with this. Rent seeking is distinguished in theory from profit seeking, in which entities seek to extract value by engaging in mutually beneficial transactions. Profit seeking in this sense is the creation of wealth, while rent seeking is the use of social institutions such as the power of the government. And here I say communities. See how I see community and government? So it's the power of the government, but it's actually the power of the community who uses government to redistribute wealth along different groups without creating new wealth. And again, is this net neutrality discussion a part of the ISPs who are trying to gain revenue by using the regulatory bodies? An example of rent seeking in a modern economy is spending money on political lobbying for government benefits or subsidies in order to be given a share of wealth that was already been created, or to impose regulation on competitors in order to increase market share. So a famous example of rent seeking is the limited access to lucrative occupations such as the medieval guilds or modern state certifications and licensures. Taxi licensing is a common referenced example of rent seeking. So you go to the airport and there's only one taxi company that can service, or two taxi companies that can service the airport. You can't just have a limousine that's not paying rent to the airport that gets access. To the extent that the issuing of licenses constrains overall supply of taxi services, rather than ensuring competence or quality, forbidding competition by livery vehicles, unregulated taxis, and or illegal taxis renders the otherwise consensual transaction of taxi service a forced transfer on the part of the fee from customers to the taxi business proprietors. And this is where libertarians need to weigh in very carefully here in terms of how they feel about rent seeking. The concept of rent seeking would also apply to corruption of bureaucrats who solicit and extract bribes or rents for applying their legal but discretionary authority for awarding legitimate or illegitimate benefits to the clients. For example, tax officials may take bribes for lessening the tax burden of the taxpayers. Regulatory capture is a related concept which refers to the collusion between firms and the government agencies assigned to regulate them. which is seen as enabling extensive rent-seeking behavior, especially when the government agency must rely on the firms for knowledge about the market. Studies of rent-seeking focus on efforts to capture special monopoly privileges such as manipulating government regulation for free enterprise competition. The term monopoly privileged rent-seeking is an often used label for this particular type of rent-seeking. Often cited examples include the lobby that seeks economic regulations such as tariff protection, quotas, subsidies, and extension of copyright law. And that's an interesting thing we may talk about in telecommunications. We talk about the Sonny Bono copyright law. So the next lectures, I'm going to change gears and talk about schools of thought. Thank you.